Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this live stream of a conversation with our parents and families, hopefully, called the Chisholm Edge. Tonight, we'll be looking at the sorts of services and supports that the college offers to help our girls to build a bridge into their future, particularly at these very strange times in our country and in our planet's history. So I'm here tonight with Adam and with Nikki. So Adam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Adam McNamara. I'm the Learn Plus coach here at Caroline Chisholm.
And I'm Nikki Arsengeist. I'm the Partnerships Manager here at Caroline Chisholm College.
And it's great to have you both with me tonight to talk about this. Is a really important conversation. And I think that, like most families, we as teachers looking after young people are really concerned about what might happen next for our graduates. The college, as you know, has a proud history of graduating young women into the community to go on and do extraordinary things, whether that be excelling at university and then taking on professional careers or moving into further training and employment. And I know that local businesses and businesses far and wide hold Caroline Chisholm graduates in very, very high esteem. We want that to continue to be the case, even in these tricky times when the employment market and the economy are so stretched. So tonight we hope is going to be a practical conversation. What do we hope to achieve in the next 30 minutes, Nikki?
Oh, look, I think if we can sort of have people identify a goal for each student, we'll take a look at the reality of what our world is like today, and then have a look at some options for moving forward and dealing with that.
Okay, terrific. That's a fair bit to get through. So let's start with that idea of a goal. Adam and I are parents, we've got kids, and we probably share the same sorts of aspirations for our daughters and sons as you would for your family. And to sum it up in a word, I would say that I want my children to flourish. And that word flourish is, it's a really special word. It comes from, at the moment, the positive psychology movement, and it means something quite specific. To flourish in terms of positive psychology means for a person to use all of their strengths and to feel as though those strengths are having a great impact on their own sense of being alive and having an impact on other people around them and in their communities as well. So we have positive psychology as a foundation of our pastoral care system here at the college. You'll hear a little bit more about it in a few minutes. But this goal of flourishing, I'm sure, is something that most parents or all parents can relate to when they think about their daughters. So Adam, what do you think about when you think about the word flourishing, maybe in your own life?
I guess in my career change about 15 years ago, when I moved from a career in communications and marketing into education and teaching, and really I found that the skills I had in that career really found their place and calling in the vocation of teaching and helping young people with their lives and helping them to achieve their goals.
And so while you were still working in communications, was it as though your strengths weren't being fully expressed in that role?
Yeah, absolutely. And they found their place in this environment in a school and in education. And with that, I really have felt my career is so rewarding and being able to help young people with their lives in learning and in other ways. That's where my skills have come to help out.
And I guess that's what we want for the students, for them to discover what those strengths are and to really see them come alive in their work and in their personal life. What about for you, Nikki? When do you experience flourishing?
Look, I'm in the very privileged position of seeing flourishing in action every day when I'm growth coaching these girls. Our girls, you see come together. You see them recognise their strengths and work out what pathway they want to take, and all of a sudden a plan for the future comes together, and it's like this little explosion of flourish, where they can really see a purposeful future for themselves.
Yeah. And so as I said before, I imagine this is the same goal that you would have with your daughters, for your daughters. And so the college wants to partner with you in uncovering what that flourishing looks like for every student, particularly at this time. So we've got Year 12s preparing for trials next week, and Year 10s looking at their pattern of study into Year 11 and 12. And they're certainly looking out of this college, beyond these gates, into a world that's facing some challenges at the moment. And as I've said before, and I said at our assembly last Friday morning, I'm very, very grateful that I have a job at the moment, a job that's relatively secure, as yours are, if you keep behaving yourselves. But secure employment is not something that all of our parents even are enjoying at the moment. And I know that I've been speaking to lots of families where the pandemic has had a huge impact on their family life, where one or both parents have either lost jobs or lost an amount of employment. I guess the reality that our students are facing is quite different than the ones that we were facing when we were leaving school. So the statistics don't look too good, do they, Adam?
No, and certainly based on the ABS numbers in recent times, the graph that drops off there is clearly as a result of COVID, and the significant impact though on younger people and young women in particular. So we're really mindful of that, and the fact that young girls and young women, particularly in the workforce, are either losing their jobs or in roles in such as retail and hospitality, casual roles and part-time roles post-school as well, where they are not earning the income or getting the hours that they would otherwise have hoped.
And that kind of part-time job, casual job is plan A for lots of students, both during school and when they leave. But as I said, the figures and even the underemployment figures on the next slide show that there's a real problem that will be around long after the country finds itself healthy again. The economic impacts and the employment impacts will take much longer to heal. So if plan A was to leave school and get a part-time job, get a casual job, even that is looking quite uncertain at the moment. And there's an article from the ABC just recently, as last week, that said that for every vacancy in white-collar work in Australia in June, there were over 300 applications. And as Adam said, these jobs are typically what our students might move into, particularly if they're not looking to further their training and their education. I was speaking to a student just yesterday about her aspirations for the future, and she was saying to me, arguing that she didn't really need to finish school and go on to further training. And her reasoning, and it's logical when you grow up in a family like this, was that her mother left school in year 10. She's now in her 40s. She got a job and then she worked her way through that job so that now that she's an assistant manager and responsible for 8 or 9 other people. And this student said, well, I'll just do the same. And I had to explain to her that the world that 40 and 50-year-olds graduated into doesn't exist anymore. It's well and truly gone. And the grim reality is that what our students need for all of that other flourishing that we were talking about is some security.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the relationship you can see on the screen behind me there is between levels of education and income. Now, it's not our hope and our dream for these girls that they get mega wealthy. We don't need to see them all driving Maseratis around Glenmore Park. But the fact of life is that meeting our basic needs, such as healthcare and being able to look after ourselves, takes a secure income. And not having a secure income, not having employment stability, makes that flourishing so much harder. So that's kind of the grim reality, but it's not all bad news, is it, Nikki?
No, absolutely not. There is some projected employment growth in particular areas. Obviously, healthcare is a huge one. We've got an ageing population and we're in the middle of a global pandemic. So, but we know that our healthcare workers are really our frontline workers at the moment, and they need all the support they can get.
Also, with our ageing population, aged care in particular is a sector that's really calling out for employment.
Yeah, absolutely. Employment in science and technology and professional services, construction is going through the roof, Greg.
That's a lovely pun, Nikki. That's something we'd expect Mr. Mac to say.
It's a bit of a dad joke, sorry.
Yeah, construction is going through the roof.
But it's true. And especially out here in Western Sydney, like we've got not just the new airport, but everything that flows on from that. So that infrastructure, transport, warehousing, logistics, but also then the estates and the schools and everything that comes with that. So it's a really massive industry.
And while there's going to be a downturn in residential and commercial building, the government has committed to the infrastructure building program as a way of building our way out of the pandemic. So the sorts of employment opportunities in those fields are going to be there, even while the rest of the economy lags behind.
a little part of my brain says, of course, this is typically not an industry that a lot of girls would go into, but man, I really want to change that up because there is so much great project management and like the trades that our girls would just be fantastic at.
Yeah, I know that we are working currently with Southern Cross University and looking at the opportunity in the future of offering a diploma of construction management here at the college for our students as an alternative to the HSC, where those students can leave here with a diploma of construction management, go into the workforce, or continue on to a construction and engineering degree at university.
And so this is like an opportunity to get into that engineering area, and it's going gangbusters. And also education and training, but not just, I don't want people to just think about teaching. This is like from preschool through to post-school training. So across the board, education and training is really a growth area as well.
Sure. And there will still be employment in other sectors as well, but these are four that we know are certainly going to continue to grow. They're projected to grow between 8 and 10% over the next 5 or so years. So there's something for our students and families to think about. And there's a plethora of opportunities outside of that in technology and so on. So we need to keep our options open. And I know that when Nikki and Cara are working with students and coaching them around their options, they always say, don't just have a plan A, don't even have a plan A and B, but a plan A, B, and C. So now we get to the part of the conversation this evening where we talk about what can families and what should parents be thinking about in preparing their daughters to create these opportunities for themselves. And from my point of view, my real concern, and I see this quite often at Caroline Chisholm, is that students come to school in a sort of not a very deliberate fashion. When you say, why do they come here? It might be because this is where the bus stops in the morning, rather than seeing this as a really critical component of building that future for themselves and making sure that they have what they need. So from our point of view, we want the learners, the students, to be really active and to be saying to themselves, what can I get out of this? How are my skills going to develop? How can my strengths really flourish? So I guess that brings us to strengths as a starting point. As mentioned earlier, strengths are the foundation of our pastoral care program. Our teachers do a strength survey of themselves and of the students at the beginning of each year. So when I do my strengths analysis, you can see them up on the screen behind me. My number one strength is curiosity, followed by kindness, and then love of learning. What's yours, Adam?
My 3 top ones would be honesty and perseverance.
Really? The top one's honesty?
Honesty, yeah.
You're pulling my leg.
Come on, Greg. But honesty, perseverance, I am being honest. And to be really honest, I think the 3rd one stands out. It's humour. Humour? Yeah, you would never have picked that one though.
I'll always keep working on that. What about you, Nikki?
Oh, I don't know if it would come as any surprise, Greg, but my number one character strength is humour. And I've also got curiosity in the mix there, as well as leadership.
Leadership. So I should look out for my job.
Yeah, watch out.
One of the starting points for you as parents is to say to your daughters, what have you identified as your top strengths? We do this at the beginning of each year. They should know what they are. And if they don't, then it's time for them to go back and look it up. But another thing that we do at the college is called strength spotting. When we see students who are displaying the sorts of behaviours that we would associate with the strengths that are on the screen behind me, then we say to the students, the way that you did that, I can see that you really showed the strength of perseverance, like you stuck at that. And that's a strength that's going to be really useful for you in life. And Nikki, you do strength spotting when you're coaching, don't you?
Oh, look, you see it all the time. And it's about that goal setting and following through with those goals. Even an element of social intelligence where people know what their interests, they understand their own interests, or there's a whole range.
Yeah, one of the mistakes I think we make is that we tend to name young people's performance or achievement. Like you got an A or a B on that test, that's really terrific. A's and B's are great, but they're not strengths in and of themselves. And it's much more useful to the young person's psychological development to name the strength that got them there.
That's right.
So that then they can focus on the strength for next time. Because the A or B doesn't necessarily mean anything next time, or when they go for a job or when they apply for a university course. And sadly, some of our students would tell us they don't think they have any strengths at all. Which brings us to the second thing that I think parents can do in partnership with us. And that is to really work to protect and nurture our students and our daughters' mental health. There are such challenges around now, and even at the best of times, young people from time to time struggle with their mental health, struggle to find that balance and that way of coping with the little disasters that life throws at us. And one of the first encouraging things I would say to parents is to help their daughters make sense of when things go wrong, to put those little failures and those mistakes and those disappointments and upsets into a broader context. Give them some perspective about those things being the steps towards success or the steps towards growth. Now, Adam, you spent a long time as a year leader, and you've had parents come to you many a time really worried about their daughters showing signs of mental health distress.
Yeah.
What's your advice to parents?
Main advice would be to certainly obviously make an appointment and see your GP, and they will help you to develop for your daughter a mental health plan.
Yep.
And then where appropriate, maybe refer you to external services and support services in the community, such as a counsellor, perhaps a psychiatrist, psychologist, depending on what the needs may be.
Yeah, that's great. And so the GP is the starting point. We are teachers, we're not mental health professionals. We do have a counsellor on staff, and Lana works really hard to support the learning needs of students through counselling and support and some of the friendship needs. But for those sorts of concerning signs that we sometimes see in the girls, we always refer them on to the professional services. But it is, again, a really important foundation for building success in the future, giving our girls the skills and the tools to work through those challenges and to preserve and nurture their mental health.
Can I just interject here,
Sure.
Greg? We're on Facebook Live, and we're getting some great comments coming through, and so thank you to all those people who are making comments. But if anyone's interested in looking at the VIA character strengths, our Pathways coach, Cara Oliver, has just shared the link to that website in the comments.
Okay, so scroll down.
Trace it up.
Scroll down and find the link in the comments. That would be great.
Thanks,
and
Cara.
Nice to see you online, Cara. So that brings us to the next part of our presentation, which is about the investment that the college has made in your daughter's future by being very explicit about our work in the area of pathways and of partnerships. And so we have, for example, employed a full-time partnerships manager, and Nikki works in that area and also in the area of pathways coaching, as does Cara Oliver, who's online with us tonight, moderating those comments. Can you tell us a little bit about your work, and particularly your recent work with the alumni, which is really exciting?
Yeah, look, it's without question one of the best jobs in the world, Greg, and thank you every day for employing me. I get to make links with a whole range of people and organisations external to the college that enrich the learning and experience of the girls here, and also to help them develop networks for their post-school lives, allow them to flourish. So, you know, it's links with industry, education, government, but also individuals. And one really big part of that group is our alumni. We have got 45 years worth of Caroline Chisholm graduates who are doing incredible things. I'm blown away every single day when I'm meeting new alumni online, and they all want to give back, and that just warms my heart.
So thank you to any of the alumni who have joined us tonight. And if you haven't yet connected with Nikki, then LinkedIn is the way to do that, or just message us and we'll put you in touch with Nikki. What are some of the things the alumni are doing for our students?
Look, I'm connecting alumni with students who work in an industry that a student is interested in going into. So also with alumni who are currently at uni doing a course that a student is interested in studying, so they can sort of really get down to the nitty-gritty from the experts, you know, the people who are on the field. Working with alumni who are working locally, who have businesses locally, giving girls opportunities to ask questions and really start to get engaged with industry and build those networks. So important. So
some of our alumni currently are working with our diploma students, and many of you would know that we have a diploma program that's running in the school with students studying 3 diplomas. We're still waiting for confirmation about whether we can provide that opportunity to students currently in Year 10. You can tell us just really briefly, Adam, about how that's working out for our students in Year 11.
It's been wonderful. The experience for the students this year in business administration, legal services, and also in early childhood education and care has just been a wonderful experience to be a part of, I've got to say, and to help coach those girls through in this experience. They've had the opportunity to work with mentors. We're talking about alumni there and ex-students, as well as coaches that are helping them with some real world experience and working with myself and an external college in ACBC as well.
So we're really very, we're optimistic and really hopeful that we'll be able to say more about that very, very soon. And for those students, they've taken quite a risk in stepping up to take on the diploma course as a pathway through Year 11 and 12. And that taking of risks is something that doesn't necessarily come naturally to the students that we work with, does it? Like I think one of the things that happens in this part of the world is that we raise our children to make sure that we protect them as far as we possibly can from anything that might make them uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and what that presents when we work with the girls is that they're not necessarily comfortable picking up the phone and calling a mentor, or they're not necessarily comfortable stepping out of their comfort zone to visit a university or visit a workplace pre-COVID. And so one of the great supports that parents can give us as we're providing these opportunities for the girls is encouraging them to take the risk, to pick up the phone, to write the email, to for those who are over 16, to get the LinkedIn account and start to reach out to people around them. And parents, by encouraging their daughters to do that, is sometimes just enough to tip these students over the Chisholm Edge and into action. So I guess it's time to talk about the sort of tools and strategies that we want to use with the girls through our partnerships. And it starts with the website that's on the screen behind me, but you can't quite see it. So Cara, if you're listening, could you please drop the website into the comments? It's careers.carolinechisholm.nsw.edu.au. And this is the jumping off point for all of the tools that we've put together to support the girls, to get them in touch with Nikki and Cara, to allow them to do an analysis of their skills. What else have we got in that toolbox, Nikki?
Oh, look, one of the tools that I use in there most is our career targets. And these are fantastic. It can be a bit of a rabbit warren. You can sort of a vortex where you go in and you emerge like 3 days later, a bit confused. Not confused, just overwhelmed with the opportunities that are there. When I'm coaching the girls, I quite often go onto this website and they're like, wow, this is so much information here. So I'd really encourage people to jump on to that and
Career targets.
Career targets. It's part of that website. I said jump, and that reminds me, Job Jump is a great tool. Cara is an absolute expert in Job Jump. She knows way more about it than me. Sorry, Cara, but it's true. So yeah, but it's a fantastic tool. Students can do quizzes and have a look at what sort of aligns with their strengths. Yeah, so there's a whole lot sort of happening as far as actual tools online that we can do. But beyond that, wow, that toolbox is getting quite full. Did you want me to talk about
Well, no, but I just want to tell the story about what happens quite often when I'm speaking to students about their pathways, or Nikki or Cara. Quite often the students will come to us having never taken a step themselves, having never visited that website, having never reflected on their strengths. Even students currently in Year 12 who are facing the prospect of graduation in, hate to say it, but mere weeks, even students in Year 12 who haven't yet taken responsibility for themselves. We can't do it for them, can we?
No, and I say that to students all the time. I'm never going to tell anyone what I think they should do. Mainly because I don't want them to come back to me in 3 years' time and say, you told me to do this and it was a terrible decision.
I hate being a proctologist.
But yeah, it has to come from within them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's another area of partnership that we're looking to our parents for, that this is not something passive that the school provides and then the students just pick it up and walk out the gate on graduation day. This is something they have to do. It'd be good for them to think of it as another one of their subjects that they need to be doing this in their own time, that they need to be talking to Nikki and Cara and Adam as the diploma coach and their teachers. They need to be talking to their parents. And over time, we're hoping to build a network. And the power of networks when it comes to employment and further opportunities is incredible.
Absolutely.
So,
look, I always, there's that old adage, it's not what you know, but who you know. And I hate that because, first of all, we're not really concerned about content of what people know, more about what they can do and what their skills are and their strengths. And who you know makes you feel like, you know, there's the haves and the have-nots. And in actual fact, that's kind of a reality.
well, lots of job vacancies are never advertised.
100%. And so I'd rather say what you can do matters and who you know really helps.
Yes.
One student actually said to me the other day, but I don't know anyone. I said, you know me.
That's the beginning of a network.
And we had that student on LinkedIn, and then she linked in with some other students and some staff members here at the college, and then started following some groups that she was interested in. And all of a sudden, there's a really active social network there that's based around her career aspirations.
And sometimes it just takes that little bit of information, a little bit of encouragement for students to realise what's actually at their disposal. One of the things that Nikki and Cara and Debbie White, the Year 12 leader of learning, have been doing with our students recently is helping them to apply for early entry and to apply for scholarships and to apply for particular entry programs into university for leaders and achievers. And students would come to them and say, well, I haven't got anything to add to my application. And then when we sit and we talk about it, we think about all the things that they've done since they've been at Caroline Chisholm and how those experiences have helped the girls to develop skills in collaboration and teamwork, that they've got this intercultural understanding from traveling overseas, that they speak another language, that they've done all of these things that they've really taken for granted and not seen that as part of a portfolio of skills that employers are really, really interested in, and universities more and more are interested in. What are the statistics now for ATAR into university?
One great example is Macquarie University. So this year, for first year domestic places, Macquarie only offered places to 17% of the people who got places there using an ATAR.
So the 83%?
83% was made up of leaders and achievers. That's the Macquarie Uni Early Entry Program, and other early entry projects like SRS, a schools recommendation scheme, and the educational access scheme. 17% used their ATAR. Yeah.
So if you are the parent of a student in year 7, 8, 9 or 10, it's not too early to be thinking about these sorts of strategies for building a future for your daughter, or helping her to. Building that network, finding if she can have experiences in the community. We've got students in year 7 and 8 who work for the Rural Fire Service. We've got students who are working through the Salvation Army. We've got students who are doing all sorts of community work through the Scouting Association, through their sporting clubs, through Girl Guides. And
one student I was talking to just today was saying, oh, I don't really know what I can put on this application. And as you said, we started talking. She volunteers at a local nursing home.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it was like, there it is on a platter, serve that up.
So that idea of service, which is central to our charism as a Catholic school and following the example of Caroline Chisholm, is also a really powerful statement to universities and to employers that this young person is engaged. And I think that's one of those qualities more than any other that employers and universities are looking for, engaged people. And so if, and I read the reports every semester, and I read every student's report, and I can divide the school into those students who have their reports packed with participation and service items on their front cover of their report, of all the things they've been involved in, and those students who don't have a single thing in terms of participation and service. Now, I think that's really sad, but it also means that those students have far less opportunities to demonstrate that they're actually an engaged citizen and would be an engaged worker or an engaged university student. And if you look at our history over the history of this college and what's up on our honour roll, the students who have, would you mind turning the lights back on, Nikki?
It's actually okay, but I'll go and do that for us.
I think the cleaners just turned the lights out. the history of our college, particularly of our college captains and our leadership teams, those students who became college captain also had really, really excellent school results because their engagement in school life was reflected in their engagement in the classroom, which made them good students.
Yeah.
And so it's like a complete circle. Employers are looking for the same qualities, universities as well.
Yeah. And I think it's also about a really well-rounded approach. So not just that engagement in regards to volunteering or community service, but also looking at training opportunities, work experience opportunities, firing off some micro-credentials. And I'm loving talking to students about,
If you don't know what micro-credentials are, you really should Google it.
Yeah, we're getting some of our Learn Plus girls have been doing some additional micro credentials, and it just looks fantastic on the resume.
And they're not just credentials in what they're studying either. They could be a passion subject or an interest that adds another layer to their employability.
One of our students was doing a micro-credential in conflict resolution management and someone else in medieval architecture. So the sky's the limit, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So all of those things, and if you have that image of that toolbox, it helps you build that career.
Do you want to have a quick look at our questions, just as we're wrapping up from the community? And just while Nikki's doing that, just to summarise, there are a couple of key pillars in what we've tried to present tonight. The first one is that the starting point is student strength and wellbeing, and it is for every lesson, whether it's a Year 7 mathematics lesson or whether we're talking about pathways planning, that the student strengths and their wellbeing is key to all of that. The second thing is that none of this is passive. It's not just going to happen for the students. And Adam, you would say quite often to the students that learning isn't something that's done to them.
No, that's right. It's something that they've got to embrace and be a part of, but certainly drive. And I really believe that in making decisions, be it around careers or pathways or the way they're learning in class, that is critical and in itself is a real skill to be honed and developed.
That's right. And when a student has a goal, that motivation to be engaged is that much higher. So, and that then goes along with that idea of taking action and taking risks to be able to explore what those strengths look like in a future pathway. And the third pillar that we talked about tonight was this idea of a toolbox, putting together a whole portfolio of skills and experiences that will put them in a strong position for heading off to a university application, to further training with TAFE or another training provider, or into the workforce. Any reflections from our community, Nikki, before we finish?
Some great reflections. Thanks to Tim Parsley, who says, failure can be a very powerful teacher if children are taught to manage the outcomes in a constructive manner.
Thanks, Dr. Tim. We appreciate that very much.
We've got one question about whether diplomas will be on offer next year, and we've addressed that briefly.
Yeah, and I've been working even as late as today with NESA and Catholic Education to try and make that happen. As soon as I have an update, I will give you an update. I'm as impatient for that news as you are.
So watch this space.
Watch this space.
And on Facebook, mostly comments. A big shout out to Cara Oliver. She has put a whole stack of links on the comments. So check out not now, but when we're finished here, check out those links. Thanks again, Cara, that's fantastic. And also Louise O'Reilly has put up some great links as well about micro-credentials and things like that. So thanks
Louise.
Lou. The questions are...
pretty much addressed?
Pretty much addressed.
Okay.
I think we've nailed it.
Okay, well, we don't want to keep everyone from their nighttime TV viewing pleasure, so we'd better wrap it up. I just want to finish by saying that our prayer for your daughters is at the foundation of our mission as a Catholic school. And it's, I guess, expressed much better than I ever could by Jesus in the Gospel, who says in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, that he came to give life and to give it abundantly. And so that's why we want these girls to flourish. And we would share in your delight in seeing them flourish and for them to grow into the women that God plans for them to be. And as I always say, we are committed to walking alongside you as partners to do the very best that we can to make sure that happens. So thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks to Cara and all the others who jumped on to support each other, to support the parents. It's such a privilege to be part of this community that is so supportive. God bless and good night.